Good evening. Welcome to this council meeting / work session. We have a full council. We'll stand for the pledge. That'll be by Councilman Lopez, and then the invocation will be Councilman Andazola.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Creator, we thank you for bringing us together this evening as we have this meeting on the taxation and discuss the Riverwalk. We ask you to be with us all tonight as we hear this information that's needed for our community, and through the Creator's name we ask this, amen.
Thank you. Then we'll go to item number 5, comments on agenda items. None.
Just the one that will be for the public hearing.
Then we have one that will be a little later on. We'll close the regular meeting and reconvene into the public hearing. The public hearing, as required by Arizona Revised Statutes, Statute Section 42-17104 and 42-17107. The public hearing will be held for the purpose of hearing comments from the public on the following items. Number 1, proposed tax levy for the city of Safford, and number 2, the truth in taxation.
Mayor, Council, I'm here, Troy Bingham, your Finance Director, to ask for a public hearing tonight that will go over the property tax portion of the budget. The budget that we've been showing you for the last few months has based, some of its revenues are based on property taxes that we collect in the city of Safford. The city of Safford is desiring to keep the property tax rate the same. So because we are keeping the property tax rate the same as last year, because of appreciation of your home, there is an increase that occurs and we get more money, and new construction is part of that increase also. It is 13.6% higher than last year. So we collect about $320,000 of property tax. In this budget, last year we collected about $300,000 in property taxes. So this meeting is to have the public weigh in on their ideas of the property tax and to share that with the council, and I turn the time back over to you guys to start that.
I have one comment for the public hearing.
Okay, that's Jeff.
Are you doing the tax?
We're doing.
Actually setting the levy. This is just a public hearing to
Right.
hear about our desire to set the property tax levy at 0.5135. So that's all you need to do, is just hear the public out on that and close the public hearing. The vote for the actual tax will happen after the budget sometime in June.
Okay, then item number 2 is we have.
So to clarify, it's staying the same.
The property tax rate is staying the same.
So even though it says they're increasing taxes, it's not.
The city is technically collecting more taxes because your home is worth more than it was last year, right?
But
That's
we're
what's
not-
going on.
But we're not changing.
We're not changing the tax rate.
And there's new construction as
And
part
there's
of
new
that.
construction as part of that. So it's not just your home evaluation went up, it's new homes that were built in Safford are also getting taxed for the first time.
So and that's a hard thing for the public to understand. It seems like every year we have the same discussion
Oh, yeah.
that we're not raising. It's just the evaluation.
So I just had, Mayor, I have a quick question. The public notice for adoption is June 10th.
With the budget, we intend to,
You're going to adopt the property tax levy on June 10th.
if we can. We've met all the required posting in the paper. That happened on April 24th and May 1st. So we've met all those requirements. At this point, we just need to pass the budget and take the taxation. Typically what we did in previous years is we do the budget for one meeting and the taxation another meeting, but there's nothing that says you can't combine those two together. So if there's time in that meeting, we'll do them together. If there's not time, we'll separate them out into meetings in June.
Okay, you want comments now, or do you want me to go ahead and ask a question?
Well, it's discussion now.
Okay, isn't there a window that we can vary this R rate, either up it a little bit or take it down? Isn't there a window we can do that without having to re-go to the public? Or
So-
any change at all in our rate, we have to
So this meeting would be, if you desired to raise the rate today, this would be the meeting where we would put that in the budget and develop our budget around that, and we would show that as a higher rate, and we'd be talking about a much higher tax rate today. So this is going through that process to set the rate even equal to what it was last year. If you wanted to increase it, you'd use this same meeting to say we should increase the property tax rate. So,
Right.
but
and
we
if you-
didn't propose that in the
If
budget.
you decided to hold the levy constant, you could reduce the rate.
Yes, okay, but what I'm asking is there a window in which we can vary it to where we don't have to go back to the public? Do we have that cushion?
I guess since we only have passed the tentative budget, technically we could vary it before we pass the final budget, but after the final budget, that is the budget, and we can't change the tax rate at that point. So if you wanted to vary it, I guess your window is right now through June 10th.
And yes is the answer.
Yes.
You could pass a property tax that would not require a truth in taxation notice.
Oh, is that what the question is?
Yes,
Sorry,
sir,
that's what
we
I
have a
meant.
window that we can up or down, and we don't have to go back to the public. There's that window which we have to, we can do that.
Yes.
If we go higher or lower than what those parameters are, we would have to go to the public.
If you go lower, you don't need to go to the public, but if you go higher, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify
Yeah.
that. too.
Sorry, misunderstood.
Okay. Which, we're leaving, I'm for leaving it where it is. too.
Okay.
Anybody else have? Okay, then, Jeff, did you have?
Yeah, where would you like me to stand to address you all?
Okay, that'd be good.
Do you?
Mr. Mayor, City Council, I appreciate being able to stand before you all and discuss my thoughts on this truth in taxation. My name's Jeff Gott. I live at 1935 South 2nd Avenue here in Safford. I'm on a fixed income, and I'm here mainly to advocate for those of us who live in the city of Safford who are on fixed incomes. We're all undergoing inflation-related adjustments and other things, so every little bit helps when trying to keep our household budgets under control as you're trying to keep the city's budget under control. So when I've got all the paperwork that's been published in the papers talking about the 13.06% increase. It's a very good article was in there this year that says, explaining that you are not raising the property tax rate. Usually that isn't present, so you see the percentage and you think, oh, the rate's going up and our costs are going up. However, I still feel beholden to advocate, because even though you all are holding the rate at 0.135, our base taxes will be going up as a result of the increased valuations. So it does hit our bottom line as local taxpayers. I did research your budget that's published in there, and there's not enough detail for me to see what the increases are, but in conjunction with the 13.6% tax increase, that budget looks like it's going from $78.5 million to $102.7 million, and that's about a $24 million increase, which appears to be around, when I calculated it out, around a 30.9% increase. So I see that there's needs, obviously, for increased revenues, increased costs, increased monies for the city of Safford. I'm just here to advocate for, as you suggested, sir, that there are multiple ways to address this. Hold the rate the same, raise the rate, or lower the rate. An example that was also published in the paper was the city of Duncan, who is choosing to take their rate last year, which was 0.9103, and lower it to 0.8600. I think they're avoiding maybe a truth in taxation hearing through that, but they're also going to benefit their local taxpayers. And I'm just surmising perhaps they can meet their revenue needs without raising it all the way or keeping it the same or whatever. So in advocating for our local people, and especially fixed income people like ourselves, I just wanted to get that opinion before you all, that anything that you all can do to make decisions to generate revenue from other sources and not have it on the backs of us. It's wonderful you're holding the rate the same, but that 13.06% increase will raise our taxes and will have an impact on us. Thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you. Okay, then we'll close the public hearing and reconvene into regular session. The regular meeting, and now we'll go into our work session. Our first item on the work session, number 1, easement agreement between the city of Safford and Graham County along the Gila River.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, members of council. So tonight, obviously, is a work session on the easements as part of the Gila River Walk project. Now, it's been quite some time since we have done this, so I am going to read through this narrative a little bit just to kind of go over a little bit of history. And I did also have B hand out some pages that I pulled out of the original agreement. Now, the original agreement's long, some of the maps fold out, so it's hard to duplicate. So what we can do at some point, if you would like, we could send you an electronic version of the entire document. This gives you a pretty good summary, though, for the purposes of this meeting, to provide a reminder for those who've heard it before and new material for those who have not, because some here have not seen this. So I'll read through the CC&F and then we'll proceed with the rest of the discussion. So, staff is initiating a discussion and seeking council direction regarding the creation of an easement agreement between the city of Safford and Graham County. The affected easements include parcels 102-12-002, 102-12-003, 102-14-003B, and 102-14-004A. If granted, the easements would be, and by the way, there's maps in the packet that show those parcels in Exhibit A and B. If granted, the easements would be used for the placement of recreational amenities. Future agreements will be required to define and determine the level of participation by the county, the city, and other interested parties regarding the above-mentioned recreational amenities. Strategic goals that are being addressed would be quality of life, infrastructure development and maintenance, and intergovernmental cooperation. Background: on Tuesday, November 12, 2019, City Council approved a non-binding MOU between the Gila Watershed Partnership and the City of Safford to cooperate in the design of a linear park along the southern banks of the Gila River from Little Hollywood in the east to Ray Lane in the west. The agreement also involved the Gila Watershed Partnership, the Trust for Public Lands, Town of Thatcher, Graham County, and private landowners. No financial commitment was part of the MOU. On Monday, June 8, 2020, City of Safford City Council passed Resolution R20-019, a conceptual master plan for the Gila River Linear Park and Trail Master Plan. And again, those are the pages that I provided from that document. Gila Watershed Partnership and the Trust for Public Lands contracted with McGain and Associates, a land architect firm that specializes in the design of parks, greenways, and trails, who completed the conceptual design. Funding is provided by William and Flora Hewitt Foundation and Freeport-McMoRan Graham County Community Investment Fund, so several funders. Follow-up work session was held on Friday, June 25th, 2021, which a presentation was made by the Gila Watershed Partnership staff. During the meeting, council was informed that the grant funds that were being pursued to fund the project were no longer available. Council indicated that given the absence of that funding, they would not wish to pursue the project as delineated in the Linear Park Conceptual Master Plan. They did, however, provide direction to move forward with the easements required for the project, which is what we're discussing tonight. Staff is recommending that City Council move forward with the IGA granting an easement to Graham County as a first step in developing the Gila River Linear Park. Park development will be dependent on the availability of funds, continued cooperation with Graham County and other government entities, private property owners, as well as other non-governmental organizations. So essentially, we're not voting on anything, right? Tonight is simply our opportunity to look at the easement document and discuss the provisions within it. But in essence, what the document does is provide the ability for amenities to be placed on those 4 parcels. And let me see if I can, I don't know how this is going to show up, but let's try it. Says enter the on-screen code, but I don't see one. Wrong one? All right, so here we go. So a lot of these emboldened areas, these are parcels that were part of that easement for all of the participants. And so ours are essentially these two, and you can see the four that we're talking about. One is this small piece here, then this larger piece, and then this parcel is the third, and then the fourth is basically the roadway going into the wastewater treatment plant. So those are the four easements that are being addressed in this document. And at this point, unless there are any questions, that really is the substance of why we're here.
So, I don't see this map taken in, don't we go all the way to the east, all the way to about where the miniature golf used to be?
Yes, and I believe,
That's not on us, that's on Ted Freeman.
That's on Ted Farina's easement?
right, so, but that would be, and if you look in your packets, although it's really hard to see because it's small, it gives you an idea of where exactly this goes. Essentially, it goes from Ray Lane in the west into Graveyard Wash in the east, which is just behind the Sunrise Village property.
But this only involves a beat it up one?
Correct.
There are other easements are like you said, Mr. Farina?
Yeah, well, this is the only part
There
that
are
belongs
several.
to us. That's why
Yeah.
we're given easement to someone else.
Correct. So this is our participation. Now, if you recall early on, we were the one doing the easements, and at some point, the county offered to get in there and do them for us because there were some challenges in there, and so they took that over. So now, instead of us having them sign easement documents with us, we're signing them with them, giving them access to these parcels. And there are private landowners, there's some in Thatcher, which are FMI. I think FMI essentially bookends, one in the east, one in the west, and in addition to FMI, there are other landowners that are in there.
And you went from using the term, the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, to IGA. Is there a difference in what that involves?
Yes. So the MOU is a non-binding document that basically said we are all interested parties. There were no financial obligations involved in that. The second part was the master plan itself, which we said, okay, we're adopting the work that was done in the master plan and basically accepting the concepts that are contained within there, and some of which are financial. They lay out some budgets, which at this point would probably be significantly out of date. But the plan in its entirety, the amenities that would be put into the trail, where they would go, and who would be responsible for the budgeted aspects of it are in that document. So you had the MOU, then you had the master plan. Now the IGAs would be something entirely different, right? So the IGAs would be a byproduct of the actual actions taken. So if, for example, as part of the conversations and part of the implementation of the Riverwalk, we decided to put trails and some birding platforms on these parcels, then there would be an agreement that we would do with the county that would say we're creating an intergovernmental agreement, and in that agreement we would delineate who was responsible for building, maintaining those structures. So it would contain the details of actual things that would get built on the property.
So today we're looking for the easements, which is different than the IGAs are gonna bind us to something.
Correct. So the easements are simply saying, well, the easements bind you in the sense that you're saying we're providing permission to do amenities on these parcels.
Yes, we're giving the county
Yeah.
and whoever they utilize to go in there and do things
Correct.
and leave things.
Correct.
So when do we take into consideration the rest of all this documentation, the IGAs and working together with Thatcher? And, because I don't know how much committed Thatcher is to this program anymore.
Well, I had some conversations very recently, and my understanding is Thatcher is still committed to the project. I think because of the nature of the project, we're not going to build it in one shot, right? So it's going to be built over time. And so I know the county got some grants to do design. They also got some grants to do build some things. So that's going to be part of the ongoing conversation, which is why my goal, and again, the way I see it, especially because this will take time, you may have changes in councils, you may have changes in staff. I'd like to see us institutionalize that process so that there's a team that works on doing an IGA. So let's say we have a grant from the county and we're going to build some things on that property. We get together, we decide, okay, are the way we're going to build these really matching what's in the master plan, or do we have to make some changes? Staff would come up with designs, cost, working with the county, let's say in this example, and then we would come back to you with whatever those decisions were in terms of the build, the cost, and the maintenance of those items, and then get agreement with council, and the Board of Supervisors likewise would approve it on their end, and now you'd have a codified agreement to say, in this section, we're going to do these things. Now, that's going to happen multiple times, right? Because we can't do it all in one go. So that will repeat itself. And of course, in different areas along the river will be different amenities. And the guide, and again, the document calls itself guidelines. It provides us with a guide of the type of amenities that were researched, where they would go, and who would be involved in putting them in. So while it's a guide, it does have a pretty decent level of detail. Obviously, the costs and things like that will have to be updated. But I think it does give us a good flavor of what the intent was of the original master plan. Now, as we go forward, those things may change. Those changes would be reflected in those agreements.
So we're beginning on the east side.
I'm not sure where the grant, is the grant identify, you know, maybe Dustin, you wanna come on up and participate? So the county has made application, you can sit over there if you like.
Want me to sit by you?
So the county has made application, but I don't think we've made a specific decision as to where you're gonna begin construction, or have you?
Mayor Ortega, members of the council, thanks for having me here. Thank you, John, for inviting me. I was a little reluctant, I wanted to go home, but John said, "No, you gotta come, so I come here." But no, this is a project that we've all been excited about for several years. We were a little deflated back in 2021 because GWP was kind of running with this, and they had a change of leadership, and the bottom kind of fell out. And really the person that's picked this up is Michael Patrick. He's with the Trust for Public Lands. He's the one that wrote a grant to Juan Ciscomani's office and was able to get $2.3 million to help construct it. We went to ADOT and applied for a grant to do design. We received $498,000 for design, and our match is $33,000. So pretty good deal all the way around on those grants. So our idea is to start on that east side to work with Safford. So that in the plan, there's a Safford segment and a Thatcher segment, and 20th Avenue is basically the dividing point. 2.3 million is all we have right now. I think we'd be very fortunate to be able to get to that 20th Avenue and get the Safford segment done. So that's been our focus. We were more interested in starting on that east side and going west. A lot of that was because Ted Prina was very much a fan of this project. We knew those easements would come easy, and we started those easements from the east to the west. So we don't have any easements on the Thatcher segment. That would be kind of a phase 2. Our phase 1 was intended to be on the Safford side. So with the monies we have, and we'll find out a lot more when we get into design. We have been awarded it. ADOT's been choosing their designer because it's, that's the way that grant works. I just got an email from our engineer, Michael Bryce, at about 4 o'clock and said they just chose Jacobs Engineering. That's who's going to be our engineer, and we can start doing some scoping. So if this all works out, the next step would be getting with Mr. Cassell and Mr. Henry, working with them to look at designing this. We have the very pretty picture with some great concepts. But of course, we all know how these conceptual master plans work. They're just really good ideas, and we'll have to actually put some paper on this. So again, this has been an idea from a long ways back. I'd say Danny Smith was probably the one that originated the idea, kind of looking at the Verde River, what they have in Camp Verde, and trying to mimic that and just making our river more useful. And I know the county, city of Safford, and the town of Thatcher, probably when I was still with the city of Safford 7 or 8 years ago, we tried a lot of economic development efforts, and at one point we said, we just need amenities. The mine just needs to keep people here, we just need more stuff. And that's when we started really investing in parks, skate parks, everything, and beautifying the community. And it's been successful. And this is a great project to continue it. It definitely has some challenges, but we think it'd be a great idea. We have to partner. We can't do this alone. Savvy can't do it alone. We're all in it together. We budgeted $200,000 last year to match grants, and so with that, we've been able to get about, what did I say, $2.8 million to get this going. And I believe there's more grants out there, and once we get this design, we'll have a really good idea of how much money we're really going to need to make that happen.
And so again, kind of echoing what Mr. Welper's saying, I think that this is an exceptionally important project, right? I know people look at it and they say, well, you've got, walking paths and stuff, but this is the stuff that kind of creates quality of life. And you're doing it in a way that accentuates the things that you have in your area, right? The natural assets that you have, which means that when you do it, you create unique experiences for people, so people will want to come back, right? I mean, you go to places like Phoenix and Tucson, you get the whole Anywhere USA feel, right? This isn't that. This is something that says we're going to build things that accentuate the assets that we have in the area and create something unique that our citizens can enjoy. And if we do this, again, as we talked about strategic planning and long-term visioning, this will take time to build out, right? But if we partner with the county and we partner with Thatcher and we group together to kind of build this over time, it'll be an asset that everybody can enjoy. It'll be a unique asset, and we can do some cost sharing. We continue to seek grants, and we'll do it over phases. So when I went back and I listened at the work session, that was kind of the final meeting we had quite a while ago, one of the comments that was made was that, we're not going to put this all in at one time. We're going to put this in segments. And so we can look at those segments based on availability of funds, where we get grants, based on availability of funds within our own budgets, to go out there and say, we're going to continue to build on this over time, and then, maybe realize that vision. So maybe there's only parts of it that go in place in the beginning, but again, this is something we can continue to do pieces at a time and develop over a longer period of time. And again, when you look at this idea of strategic planning, when you look at connecting bike paths where, you may be able to go from the river to the cemetery to Thatcher on a bike, now you're creating a comprehensive system that has purpose, right? And can be enjoyed by a lot of people, whether you're walking, riding the bike, that kind of a thing. So again, it requires some vision over the longer term, because you can't do it all in one shot. But I really believe it's an important project for the area, so.
I do as well. It's one of the more exciting things that we've looked at since I've been on council. And if this is step one to try to create some momentum, I think it's a great idea. The easement.
Yes. And the tip of the hat to the county, because all of a sudden it went from us to them, and then they've been pursuing things to get funding, right? Because funding became an issue. That became a bottleneck for us. And we sat down, and the funding that was available had some really kind of onerous requirements. And so we've gone out and they've gone out and found additional funding and picked up the ball and run with it. That's kind of what we've been looking for, right? And it's, again, the strategic plan, the intergovernmental cooperation. It's a great opportunity for all of us to come together and create something really special and unique, and also do it as a team. Do it as it gives the communities an opportunity to work together on something. So I just think it's a win across the board, and we'll proceed as the monies are available. I do think at some point as we go into future budgets, I'd like to see us put some money in, us apply for grants, put some additional funding even of our own in, because I think it's a valuable recreational asset, right? Just like building the parks, El Paso, and the one that will be at Discovery and 8th. This again is a park of a different sort, a linear park, right? Which has a unique flavor to it and really gets you into nature and allows us to experience and enjoy that unique aspect of our community. So I think it's a really worthwhile project to pursue.
Hey, John, I like what you said about us working as a team, because this will just be the beginning to show how we can
Yes.
work as a team to get a lot accomplished for the city and the county. It's a good beginning.
Well, I don't know how far that money's gonna go, but I'd really like to see us even in the first phase, end up with a loop that you can get out to the river and get back without having to backtrack. So I don't know what the shortest route that could be, but I think that's where we need to start. Not necessarily on one end or the other, but maybe even in the middle, because 8th Avenue, we already have a sidewalk to there. And if we can then make a loop back to some other place, east or west of there, I think that'd be the best start, is actually having a loop, and then we can go loop further and further in both directions.
And I think there may even be some opportunities as we go forward, because we're going to be working on our general plan. And within that, maybe we want to highlight the fact that maybe a multimodal system, and it's something we can have a master plan for. Now, it wasn't long ago, working with Lance, we basically kind of started to get rid of signage and pull back on some of the stuff that was just saying, oh, this is a bike path when it's a sidewalk. And we kind of looked at a couple north-south corridors, east-west corridors. You know, maybe we revisit that in light of this project and in light of creating those loops, right? So that you're not building a segment of a bike path over here in the middle of nowhere, that we all can be looking at how do we rationally build this so that there are loops and that it's progressive and useful to the people that are going to get on it. So as we go forward and we look at designs, that's got to be, I think, one of the things we look at is, you know, how useful is it to get on and integrate some kind of loop with it. So
Now, who is going to be, you know, getting together to keep this project moving? Who's going to be?
Well, one of the ideas that I had, and I've kind of shared this with Dustin a little bit, and I talked with Lance a little bit about it, is because of the length of the project and because there may be different councils, right? We've talked about issues of continuity in the past. There may be different staff, is that we have a team that's dedicated to this project to work on this project in its various segments. So that you have a group that, you know, the engineer, the manager, maybe the public or community development director, maybe the finance director, all come to the table to have a comprehensive team that works across the organizations. And it's always that team that gets together to initiate. So let's say I go to put a grant in place, so I may go to Dustin and say, we're going to have a grant, we get the grant like they did, we convene a group, that group, to work on that grant and to look at the design and where we want to go. I know immediately when I showed it to Lance, he had some input on where we would put the parking lot. Let's work out some of those details, agree on them, and create the plan so that there is a built-in institutionalized team that always comes back to the table to build each one of those segments for all the organizations, right? Kind of like the approach we took with Samaritan House. The whole idea there was a lot of unilateral conversations going on. We got everybody at the table that had an interest, right? And those folks met on a regular basis. And again, we were very successful. Now this one's a little bit more in depth in terms of the levels of engineering and things, but it's the same concept, right? To create an institutionalized process with the same people, interorganizationally, at least by position, to constantly be working on this particular project.
Makes sense. One person drops out, another one goes in, and
Right.
and just keep it.
Right, and so as you theme this, as you build things on it, as you decide on design, aesthetics, right, cost sharing, O&M, again, having that kind of continuity in those agreements and with the people having the understanding of how that's going forward will help make that trail look like it's one trail, right? You don't want it to start looking one way and end up looking another. There's decisions that will need to be made along the way to make sure that we have some kind of a unified look to it and that it has a nice aesthetic, right? Because that'll be part of it, right?
What about if I remember right, it's like 3 separate trails in places?
Yes, so if you look, I think in the packet early on, it'll show you, it's about 5 pages in, there's kind of a cross section, it's this blue color. And basically what that does is it shows you the 3. So the idea essentially of the pathways is the farther away from you get from the river, the more of a built environment item you get, right? So as we consider the fact that flooding will occur, anything really close to the river you want to have as little invested in the infrastructure as possible because it makes it easy to maintain and to repair. So the way this is structured, it's an increasing level of, I don't know what you would call it, what would an engineer call it, structure other than natural environment as a dirt walking path to a soft surface and then eventually to a hard surface at the top. So again, that's the vision, and maybe they don't all go in at one time, maybe they do, but that was
I think we
original.
would concentrate on the hard surface first and then add the other stuff, you know, just,
That's what we've envisioned.
seems like you get more use out of it that way.
Yeah.
And other stuff can be added relatively easily.
Well, and if you think about it, if you go on the unimproved area where you're basically just keeping rocks and logs out of the way, and it's essentially a dirt path maybe closer to the river, it's probably easy to create that. You just have to maintain the obstructions not being there, right? And then that hard surface, that would be that middle one, that probably might be the last to appear, as you say, because the top one's going to be the most expensive and probably the most used. The bottom one would be easiest to put in and maintain, so it's probably something we might do as well. But again, these are the kinds of details that you work through as you move forward with the project and see where the funding is and where we go with it.
And to move forward, you need direction to go ahead with the.
I would like the
easement.
direction to come back and have action on the easements
Right.
at a council meeting, the next one or the one thereafter, depending on how busy they are. So this is just me saying, give me a green light. And really what I'm looking for is a green light for the easements with the intention of going forward and working on the project, right? Because I think those who we're going to partner with want to know that they have a partner going forward. And again, we would decide each of those segments and those costs as we go forward, but I'd like to at least be able to say, yes, we'd like to go forward with the easements and be committed to the project over the long term.
Yeah, let's move forward. Let's move forward.
I think you have a green light with the easement, but I'd kind of still have a yellow light with the IGA and the agreement. You said have a working partner. I don't know, because it's still further on down the line, years from now, before we get to the Thatcher end. They have not fully committed to this either. They've just voiced that I kind of like it or I don't like it. I don't see a solid working partner coming from that direction
But
yet.
it doesn't have to include them. If we build this in and they never come in,
That's
we
what
still
I'm saying.
have what we have.
Right, and I
That's
think
what I'm
that you
saying.
have a Safford segment, go ahead. No, please. All I was gonna say is you have the Safford segment and it can be self-contained, and we obviously have a partner right now, and I think, I would love to have
That's all we
someone
count
here
on
from
right
Thatcher be
now
able to
is
say that my
county
understanding
and
is they are committed, and we'll find out as we go forward, but it shouldn't keep us from being able to proceed with the segment that's in Safford.
Because you did speak of changing council, changing the personalities. That has taken place already.
Yes.
We did have an agreement, we had a 10-year plan at one time for development down along there. You built a nationally recognized 10-year plan when you were here, and then it took changes in personalities and that went out the door. So working on that end's a different story.
You're talking
We're-
about the general plan?
I'm talking
Yeah.
about putting a gym on another site. That's a whole different deal.
Oh, yeah.
Right now, it's just
Let's not
Safford
go
and the
there.
county talking. We can't count on the west end at this time.
And right
It's
now-
just us.
Exactly.
Okay.
And just go with that attitude, and if they choose to join, fine. But we gotta get the ball rolling.
And again, there's a segment in Safford, and clearly the county, and again, I have to thank you guys because they literally did take the lead and keep pushing this project forward. So they really have shown that they're committed, they're involved, they're willing to work with us and go forward. And I think that's enough for that Safford segment. And hopefully, you know, with the success of that, I'm sure Thatcher will come in and at some point when they're ready and when they have the funding or when we get to that point, they may go forward. But it should keep us from
No,
working with the county.
you know I'm hesitant.
I know.
You just like passion.
No, because it's not uncommon for people to go away and Safford ends up with all the maintenance, or that it goes south. I know it's negative talk, but I mean, I want positive to come out of this. But it could happen, and then Safford gets left holding the bag for the maintenance and the upkeep of the whole shebang. And I want to avoid that. I don't want that to happen to future generations that are going to have this.
Right.
That's what I'm leery and watching out.
Yeah, I think we're very conscious of it. I feel that we are.
Yes,
I think.
with current leadership.
How far does that, east does that go?
It goes, the old swings and things, it goes about to that far.
Graveyard wash.
Graveyard Wash.
Graveyard wash.
So on the west side of.
So then we can just tie that into the walking path from 26th Street?
Tie it into sidewalks at some
You'd
point.
have to
We might have to go along
Yeah.
and stop and wash, but yeah, we could get that in.
And it definitely spurs future projects and future loops.
So I'm just trying to figure out how to tie it back in.
Or come out Little Hollywood Road.
I mean, initially it'll tie into 8.
There's a tie in there somewhere, but
Well, we can, I'm just worried, if you're worried about that, I mean, why don't we just do our
no,
own
I'm not.
this way and then just kind of do ours,
That
tie it
would be
in?
cool if we could link it to the bike trail,
Yeah.
because then we've got
It
more.
would be all around.
And again, it's these types of discussions which would drive how we design and move forward, right? So that there is this rational process that works, and those would be discussions we would be having.
And Representative Siscomonte's would be used on this side.
We're knocking on your door, not Thatcher's.
Okay. I like hearing that. I'm not bashing them. I wish they were here because I'd rather say
I
it
got two
openly.
supervisors from Safford, one
Yeah,
from Thatcher's.
okay. The easement part is a green light still, like the rest of them said. The rest of them, we still probably have a little I's to dot and T's to cross.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the process, right? And that's why we'll work on doing that, and then eventually it will come back to the councils for their review. It's an exciting project, though. I think that there's monies out there. We're looking cooperatively to work with the county so that we can kind of pool resources and create something really special, and I think it will benefit the community greatly. So I think it's a worthwhile endeavor, and let's go in with an open mind and be positive and trusting until we're pulled in the direction where we don't.
So
I don't know
the,
how we can be too negative. I mean, they're bringing all the money to the table.
Yeah.
All we gotta do is agree.
Which is extremely encouraging.
I have to play devil's advocate.
the amounts that you have here, the
Yes.
costs, is that coming out of the grants, or is that something that they're asking the
No, that
city?
was an original estimate, which probably will not hold at this point. Prices have gone up pretty significantly since then. So, but it does give you an idea of the items where they would go and the character of them. The cost will undoubtedly change and go up.
But that's to us or out of the grant?
Well, I don't know which portions that's gonna be part of the design. We have to figure out what we're gonna build with the grant.
So the $498,000 will cover design, and Paul would probably know better than anyone. I'm pretty sure that design will come with cost estimates for the design.
Yes, they'll go all the way to 95% and ready to the advanced specs and estimate, as well as the environmental clearance.
So that, once we have that full package design, we'll have a good cost estimate, and then we're not gonna be able to afford the Cadillac. So we'll literally look at there, we'll sit down and say, what can we build for our 2.3? Do we need to go after some more money, right? We're pretty fortunate as governments right now that there's more grant money out there than there ever has been. And momentum's a beautiful thing. If we can get this thing going and building, it's a whole lot easier to get those grants and apply for them, especially if we show collaboration. They love that. And
Yep.
in the city and a county working together, this increases our opportunity even more.
So we may be able to get future funding down the road as a result of taking the funds they give us and using them. It makes you attractive. Now, what those costs will be and how we build it out, those will be things that we'll bring back to you and say, okay, this is the real numbers today, this is what it's gonna cost to get it built, here's where those monies are coming from. Some monies might come from the grant, obviously initially they will, but at some point it may be something that we build into our budget and request of council as well to make some contribution or do a grant match or provide O&M, right, to maintain what gets built, those types of things.
And we didn't have any monies at all when we started, and we put the stipulation on, we didn't want to go forward. You might read that in some of it, the history of it, where we didn't want to go forward unless we had some grant money, and it came in. And we're here now.
Yep.
I mean, We got over a couple million now, so that's great.
And I've only said their name once, but again, the Trust for Public Land has been huge. They're the ones that actually wrote the grant to Sisquami's office, and they're a nonprofit, no charge to us. They just have an interest in the project and want to see it go forward. So that's been a great resource. We see Gila Water Partnership as a big player in this when it comes to maintenance. They would be the ones that would maintain the little trails down to the river. They're interested in making some educational signs and opportunities along the way too, and continue their restoration efforts. And that gives them a good path and easier access. We all know there's some blight down at the river too, and hopefully this will be an opportunity to clean some of that up and just make that river more of a recreation opportunity for all of us.
There's so much that can come from this. That really, we'll just see it as it comes.
But don't you guys take my caution as negative.
Never, Arnold, never.
I don't like to overextend our people, so I open my mouth about
I
it.
think you shocked everybody here when you had that cautionary tale.
Yeah.
No one expected that.
Good.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else?
All right, so my takeaway is green light, move forward.
Green light.
All right, very good.
Okay, then we'll close the work session and convene back into regular session. Item 13, announcement of current events. Anybody? Nope. Request for future agenda items. Nope.
I make the motion, we adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. All in favor? We're out.
Aye.